Now, it doesn't matter how old you are or how long you've been playing video games, there's always going to be a plethora of video games that you haven't experienced. And just the other day, SuperJim reminded me that he showcased a game that I showed some interest in. That game was Metal Marines on the Super Nintendo, and I decided it was about time to sit down and give it a try. So if you want to see this 50-year-old Scottish guy playing Metal Marines on the Super Nintendo for the very first time, and you just wait until after these.
Nintendo!
2115, research scientists make a breakthrough in antimatter energy technology. However, the same technology was applied to weapons research. Disaster. A minor border skirmish between two nations saw the first use of antimatter weapons. Well, that's a cheery start to the game. So as I said in the introduction, this is the first time I've ever played Metal Marines, and I'm looking forward to it because SuperJim is an absolute top bloke and he's never let me down with a game suggestion yet. And don't look back on previous Nintendo adventures where SuperJim has also recommended games that I can't remember if I liked them or not. But I'm sure they must have been good, because why would Jim recommend a game that I wasn't going to enjoy? Well, probably just to torture me. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the same case with Metal Marines, but let's just take a look at the game anyway, and hopefully it's a winner and not a loser. And also I need to point out that this will be an edited video. Normally when I take on a Nintendo adventure I can just sit down and play through the game a few times. Metal Marines is not a fast paced action game, and it's not one that you can just sit and watch from start to finish. Not unless you're really interested in the game, but I'm not going to do that to you because I managed to get 45 minutes out of the first playthrough. So for the purposes of this video I'll break it down into manageable chunks that won't, or hopefully won't, bore you too much. And one of the very first things that jumped out at me was this music that you're listening to here, because it sounds so much like Vandal Hearts. Well, it does to me anyway. I know I don't have the best of ears when it comes to music, but this really took me back to Vandal Hearts. Now, after quite a long introduction, and you should read the introduction if you play this game yourself and you don't have the manual to hand, I wish I'd paid more attention to it at the time. But after this long introduction, you're into the game proper, and the first thing you have to do is set up bases. Now, being the first time that I'd ever played this game, I've never read the manual, I didn't know what I was doing. I just decided to plop my bases down anywhere and see how that went. But I think strategically you should be looking to place them separate from each other, because as I've said, I've never played this game before until now. Had no real idea of what it was going to be like, how it was going to play, and what I was supposed to do in the game. And technically, if I had to clump it into some sort of genre, it would definitely be real-time strategy-ish, but mixed with a good dollop of battleships. That's right, the classic original battleships game. And once you've laid down your bases, you can then go on to build other structures, defensive structures such as anti-aircraft missiles, machine gun turrets, mines, and a whole host of other things. And those are just the defensive structures. You also have offensive structures as well, but you don't want to waste too much time building at the beginning, because as I said, this is a game that's very much like battleships, but a real-time strategy battleships. So while you're deciding where to put your bases and then put down your gun turrets or missiles, the enemy's working away in the background to launch an attack on you. Not knowing really what I was doing at the start of this game, I was attacked several times before I even clicked what was happening. But on the positive side of that, the attack animations are pretty sweet, and I enjoyed watching them for the first couple of times anyway. And it also spurred me on to launch my own first attack, and this is where the real tactics of the game come in. Because like battleships, what you have to do is throw a bombardment at your enemy and try and figure out where they are on their map. Now of course, what you can throw at the enemy depends on what you've built in your particular island. You need the intercontinental missiles to throw the missiles at them, and you need at least 3 Metal Marine bases because they're your main attack. What the missiles tend to do most is recon your enemy's base. Sure, if they hit land, they will destroy whatever buildings are in the vicinity, but knowing where to send the Metal Marines in is the real crux to the game. Now of course there's other things that I haven't touched on in depth, especially when it comes to the construction, because you can upgrade your units as well, and not only that, there's some interesting facets in the construction such as dummy units. Now I didn't play a great deal of the game so I didn't really utilise this, but I can see how handy it could be if you can lead the enemy down the wrong path by having some dummy units somewhere and they think they've scored a hit. Another thing, there was plenty of cutscenes with some smack talk between the leader of the enemies and yourself. So we are seeing some Proto Command and Conquer stuff in this game. And on the whole, I think I can hand in heart say that this is my current favourite SNES game. So I will thank SuperJim for sending me down this route, for pushing me on to play this game in the Nintendo Adventures. And I think it's going to be a hard one to top, well, especially for me. So if you're a Nintendo fan, especially from back in the day, and I'm talking NES or SNES, and you have a game that you think I should try, well, drop down into the comments and let me know, because I need your input to continue this series. Well, I don't need it, but it's handy if someone with an outside perspective can come along and say, you should play this one. But just before we go to the outro, I'll thank SuperJim one more time, because Metal Marines is up there with some of the best games that I've ever played, and I will most definitely play this again. So there you go, that was Metal Marines on the Super Nintendo as recommended by SuperJim, and the link is down in the description to his channel. Now for me this was the perfect game, or it would have most certainly have been the perfect game back in 1993 when it came out, because that's exactly the type of game that I would be playing on PC. Now I didn't have a Super Nintendo, and the people that did have a Super Nintendo, they either didn't have it or we didn't play it because it's not exactly a social game. It's a very much one player game, and it would be a bit boring to watch, I suppose, even though I've just made you watch it in this video. But this is all about nostalgia, and I want to hear from you too. Is this a game that you played back in the day, or is it one that has passed you by completely like it has me and now you want to play it? Well, if that's the case, let me know down in the comments, because interaction between you and me, well, that's what makes YouTube special. It does for me anyway. Thank you again for watching as always, and until next time, cheerio. Well, you've made it this far, so why not pick another video to watch from one of the selection up here and subscribe if you fancy it.